You want to have that lead time, but we have to be agile and be able to truly just pivot and do whatever was needed, because this was, like you said at the beginning, this is a new world right now.
Yeah.
A very new world.
Follow the Leader features dynamic women entrepreneurs and their journeys to becoming a success in business. This podcast is an inspirational space for entrepreneurs, future entrepreneurs, and thought leaders as they share their keys to success. I am Chanel Christoph Davis, the CEO and founding partner of the largest woman and minority-owned sales tax advisory practice in the country, Davis & Harmon, LLC. Today on Follow the Leader, we have our guest leader, Andrea Tsakanikas. She is the founder and president of crewfacilities.com. Andrea, her expertise is in property and facility management industries and consulting, and it spans more than 3 decades. In 2014, Andrea launched crewfacilities.com, an organization that focuses on group housing and logistics. You service areas such as disaster relief across the U.S. You manage and dispatch overnight accommodations and movement, and you service many, many clients that we would know well, such as the Air Force, Air National Guard, Coast Guard, Veterans Administration. So you keep and you also do not only governmental, but you do corporate travel as well.
Yes, we absolutely do.
And you are a member, and you have of several organizations, including the Women Impact and Public Policy, WeBank, WBCS, Women's Business Council Southwest. We're both board members, fellow board members on that organization. You're part of WeBank's forum, and you're a part of Florida Transportation Builders Association. So you do a lot for women, and also you're a founder and board member of Creating Women Leaders. So we'll talk about that as well. But you have a lot of community service, and you give back to a lot of women's organizations. So welcome, Andrea. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you for having me. I'm really excited about being here.
Yeah, so you are officially my very first post-corona podcast show.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, we had originally scheduled to do this, and it was going to fall right in the middle of everything that kind of was breaking all at once. So we decided to postpone just so we can figure out what was happening. Mm-hmm. You were supposed to travel from Austin to Dallas for a board meeting. That got canceled. So we canceled the podcast show, and then we decided to pick up 3 weeks later remotely via Zoom. Mm-hmm. And this is a new way of life, right? That we're doing things remotely, but together. We still are maintaining some level of connectedness, but it definitely feels like we're in a new world, right?
Absolutely.
So what I love about your story, Andrea, is that, you know, I was talking to you recently about using your services because we are a consulting group. Mm-hmm. And my expertise is sales and use tax. My expertise is not travel arrangements, right? So if we ever had an engagement or a project where we had to move a team of consultants from point A to point B to one city to the next city to do a project, that for me was something I was not willing to take on. So I had been talking to a potential client about a project, and I was like, you know, who's going to book the travel? Mm-hmm. Who's going to actually, if there's something that happens that, you know, the travel is canceled, who's going to be the person that they get on the phone with to resolve those issues? I'm running a business. I don't have time to deal with, you know, my plane got canceled, my flight got canceled. So tell us a little bit about your industry, how you got into this. Is very specific. I mean, it makes sense, mm-hmm. but you service corporate individuals and government entities as opposed to individuals. So tell us how you got into this field.
Correct. And I say we are such a interesting, very unique business. We call ourselves a crew logistics manager or personnel logistics manager. So we'll go way back when our leadership team, our backgrounds hail from property and facility management. So most of our careers have been on the ground, physically managing a variety of different facilities across the U.S. I had a property management company that specialized in vacation rentals, and we had a huge portfolio of homes across the state of Florida. And I built that company from scratch and sold it 5 years later. And from that point on, yeah, it was exciting. It was exciting. At that point on, I saw there was a need to go into the consulting arm of property and facility management. And so for many years, I worked with a variety of different entities, ranging from real estate investment trusts, national organizations, large real estate conglomerates, different organizations that had a very large portfolio of different facility types, where they either wanted to centralize their operations across the country, where they wanted to actually have one hub or office manage a variety of different properties from one location, or maybe they were purchasing an organization that had a whole management team across different properties that they wanted somebody to come in and vet and determine whether their staff was the proper fit, their processes, procedures, their branding, marketing, etc. So we spent a lot of years doing specifically consulting. And one of those projects brought us to Texas, and it was for a corporate apartment company that had been in the business many years, and they had been asked to literally manage a variety of different properties all across Texas, specifically in the remote oil and gas shale areas of South and West Texas. And because they had never done real property management, they hired our organization to come in and build the infrastructure for our property management division. And so once I got there, and I really got on the ground and started traveling around the different oil and gas shales, the remote areas, it included a portfolio of apartment complexes, hotels, motels, lodges, modular, not like semi-permanent, not even permanent construction, modular facilities that they call man camps in the industry. And so we worked for about 3 weeks, really kind of looking and going through a whole discovery process, and realized that this is very different than property and facility management. This was managing a variety of facilities as we normally do, but the travelers were actual groups or teams, field personnel that were on the ground, and they were moving in and out. Some were 2 weeks on, 1 week off. They had crew changes, they had shift changes. We were setting up these hotels and these apartments fully furnished, everything included. And we would have a day shift come into the room, and then the shift would change and go to the job site, and then a night shift would come in. So we were managing all the moving pieces and parts.
Basically, you were managing the human resources as well as the property.
Correct. Vetting the properties to make sure that they met minimum health, safety, and environmental standards, to make sure that these crew members and these personnel on the ground, being away from their families for so long, we wanted to make sure that they were getting a good night's sleep, because there is a very large correlation between that good night's sleep and productivity the next day on the job site. Retention, they were finding, these are, teams that are traveling for long periods away from home. So, to retain these employees is a very big, priority on a lot of these large organizations' lists. And then also the liability as far as, worksite injuries. So long story short, I saw there was a need for a company to come in and truly manage it, not from the property or facility management side of the transaction, but for the companies that had the personnel traveling. Because in addition to so many moving, pieces and parts and tracking their personnel, they also were sending in, hundreds of thousands of dollars every month to pay for rooms and apartments and different locations that were empty, or maybe they didn't even know they no longer needed. Maybe the job, moved to another location, or the job never started. So I saw a need for somebody to not only manage the personnel and the tracking of the people, but also to manage and control the costs. So that's a very big piece of what we do.
So let's put a pin in that, because I want to come back to that point. But I also wanted to share with the audience, if they're not familiar with Texas in the oil and gas industry. One of my first jobs, my internship was with Mobil before it became Mobil, ExxonMobil. And what happens is when they do oil exploration and they discover a well or a shale or some site that has resources, natural resources, they literally descend on that area and it becomes like another mini city until they extract all the resources from the ground. Right. So it's a huge production to coordinate all the logistics and moving parts. It's like I'm imagine like an orchestra of people and resources and equipment and facilities that you have to put in place. And most times it's in very remote areas. The only thing that's out there is prairie dogs and tumbleweed. That's it.
Right. No.
So you have to build a city in the middle of nothing.
Correct.
So I just wanted to kind of paint the picture for everyone. Picture tumbleweed, prairie dogs, maybe like a pile of dirt and some ant piles. And then you find out that this place has billions of dollars of oil under the ground. And you have to go there and set up a huge rig and huge, oil platform and extract the resources. So you help companies in the oil and gas industry make that happen.
Correct. And that's where some of those modular facilities come into play, where there are not a lot of options initially for hotels or apartments. So we actually work on that side of it too.
So you work on that side to build
in service facilities that they call man camps in the industry. And they include, all the sleeping rooms, but also common areas, cafeterias, game rooms, laundry facilities, and they're fully staffed. So they're basically a full service facility that's brought in as a modular.
Basically a small town.
Yes.
Unbelievable. So I want to unpin something that you said. You said that you saw in the industry that there was a need to have a more robust, fully, flushed out service option that included human resources. Mm-hmm. So had you not seen anything like that before?
No, and there's no minimum benchmark. So we also launched through our company, it's called the Crew Lodging Standards Council. There was no minimum benchmark for standardization of going in and qualifying, inspecting these types of facilities prior to placing these field personnel into these accommodations. So, human resources would get a call one night and somebody would say, hey, there's bed bugs in this room. And those two words to human resources, as you would know, mean move them immediately and move. You could have 20, 30, 40, 50 rooms filled with, two persons. So that was something that we saw because we came from the side of managing these facilities. We understood what it took to truly give these facilities a vetting, going through a 14-point vetting process to make sure that they do meet all of those minimum standards prior to
that they're actually livable. And okay, so based on what you're telling me, is you created an industry.
I guess you could say that because I'm asked quite often who our competitor is or who our competitors are. And there really are none. I think a lot of times people would consider some of the, travel management companies a competitor or, somebody that, does booking, just literally reservations and booking agencies and travel agents as a competitor. But what we're doing is we are actually doing full service logistics. So it truly starts with sourcing. We go by the job site location, and if it's remote, wherever it might be, it could be anywhere, from a metro, urban area to a very remote area. So we go by the
geographic area,
and we look for the best quality facility that's been vetted for health, safety, environmental quality. Closest to that geographic job site location at the most competitive rate. So we're also looking at pricing as well. And that really is
also, if there is nothing that's suitable, you can also build, and kind of retrofit temporary housing and mobile units.
And I'll give you an example. We have a client right now that has a team they're in South America, and they need to immediately mobilize 500 people. And so what we're doing is they want to build a modular man camp facility because there is no option there. And that's going to take at least probably 6 months or so. So in the meantime, we are actually we've sourced, there's no hotels, there's no apartments. So we've sourced an actual vessel that we're bringing in that is going to house them right offshore while the modular camp is being built. So when we say we source, we have over 200,000 facilities in our database. So we become a single source. So there's no limit. We're not just looking at one chain of hotels or just hotels, apartments, and I mean, all the way down to vessels if we need to house persons, immediately. The fastest way to solve that challenge for that client that needs to find housing.
Outstanding, absolutely outstanding. And what I would offer, as in my interpretation of what you're saying, the difference between you and a travel agent is I will book a travel agent or use a travel agent for a one-time trip. If I'm going to a destination and I'm coming right back. Right. But if I'm trying to move groups of people for months at a time or a year at a time, I can actually contact crew facilities, give them specs for the job, give them specs for the project, and let them know how many people are going to be involved, what's the span, the travel requirements, how long we're going to be doing this. And I need you to help me as the CEO of my company execute that, because that's your expertise, and to do it in a way that's not going to be cost prohibitive.
Absolutely. A lot of the organizations that we represent, I mean, they can be anywhere from governmental, where we talk about National Guard and Border Patrol, all the way down to a lot of disaster relief and emergency responders. So when an agency or a commercial company signs on with us, we actually designate, they actually get a representative, a full, what we call critical mission team that is truly designated to just their project, and they run around the clock. And our teams are actually trained very similar to, I say, like the military drills, because we literally go through and drill all different types of scenarios that may come at us, so that we can be agile and truly be able to support no matter what comes in and no matter how last minute that may be. And that's a very good example of what's going on right now with,
I want to bring that up now. Yeah. So that's the elephant in the room. We find out that we have this coronavirus that just hit the United States. I'm going to take you back 3 weeks ago. So 3 weeks ago, everyone was told, if you're not essential business, shut down your operations and take it to the house. So what were your thoughts? How did this impact your business day one? What was your plans? What was your next go-to?
So a large volume of our client base is energy. So a lot of oil and gas companies, and that was also kind of slowing down, with the economy, probably the week before this whole pandemic hit. So that was already something that we were looking at. Additionally, our largest governmental client is the Department of Defense. So we were unsure whether that would kind of go the other way and get extremely busy right away. But we were in that holding pattern waiting to see. And so what initially occurred is everybody in our portfolio was basically slowing down and grounded. So probably 90% of our clients were grounded. And so that was a very big wake-up call, because that was nothing any of us would ever
envision that the whole world would be grounded at the exact same time.
And not only every industry, because we've always known as business owners, never put all your eggs in one basket. So we've all diversified across a broad range of industries, but then also on the governmental side. So not only commercial, when we added the governmental side, I mean, we've been awarded over the last 3 years, 61 different governmental contracts with the federal government. So that's, you think, crazy. Okay,
that's outstanding. 61, that's outstanding.
Done a lot with that. But between all of that, disaster relief is another specialty. And then the energy area, you just would never think that all of those industries would all kind of
just dry up at the same time.
And so we kind of held, and we started creating our our business contingency plan and looking at the different phases. And so we went into phase 1, which was bringing everybody home virtually. And we did that on March 16th. But we were in the midst of also reaching out to all of our clients across the country, all of the governmental agencies, those that we, had past contracts with. We just right away, our business development team and our outreach team was just constantly calling and
just calling everybody.
Help with. Yeah. What can we help you with? And so that led us to several different emergency management agencies in different cities that were in the midst of mobilizing and trying to determine how big this was going to get. So
were you initially thinking, I'm going to have to furlough some people, I may have to lay some people off? What was your initial thought process?
So we already had in our, phase 1 in our business contingency plan, we saw, we sat down and looked at our, our overhead and all of our different numbers and our, where we were going to be in the next, 30, 60, 90, all the way out 6 to 8 months. And we knew we were going to then be going into phase 2. And so that's where we started saying, how can we kind of cut back, because we have a bunch of different contracts coming in April and May that weren't starting. And so we were saying, okay, we just need to kind of get through the slow period, and what can we do to help? That's what we were really looking for, was saying, you know what, let's go ahead and get out there and say, what can we do to help? We don't need any formal contracts. We've got a whole critical mission response, several pods of personnel that were not servicing anybody, which was once in something, that was almost surreal. So how can we help? What can we do to help? Because that was the way I felt that we needed to really pivot and say, okay, we're gonna all kind of
hunker down, and let's all focus on
hunker down and not work.
Yeah.
And so that was part of that outreach we were doing, to say, by making all those phone calls and reaching out, where can we help? We do not need to do anything formal. We don't need a formal, going through.
Yeah, we'll have to do an RP and all that. Yes.
Yeah. So that was something very different for us to do also. Very, very
You basically had to rethink your core business, which was, really travel and, thinking more about moving people around for different, industries, and really focus on something that was in your toolkit, which was disaster recovery. So you had to just kind of get everyone on the same wavelength, all of your BDMs, give them a script, and let's all focus on disaster recovery.
Yep. And
emergency planning.
Right.
And I tell you what, I got a press release that came across my inbox on Monday that blew my socks off. I mean, like, completely blew me away. And the reason why I want to talk about this, and we kind of buried the lead, but I wanted everyone to know who you were before we talked about this. I want you to share your great news, because I think it's going to give people out there who are in a very concerned space some hope and some, outlook on, we're going to get through this. And so I definitely want you to tell what was the big news that really blew my whole inbox open. I'm still trying to put my inbox back together.
I know. It's amazing. It's amazing. So we were awarded a contract for hoteling, and that's the term that's used, hoteling or lodging, in hotels, the healthcare workers for all of the hospitals in greater New York City. And additionally, all of their agencies that range anywhere from, Department of Homeless, Department of, Children and Protective Services, et cetera, et cetera. And so we had initially gone in because we had been a vendor for them and in their system from years past. I think it was back in 2016. And so in our outreach, just calling to say, where can we help? They had a need at that time because their emergency management office was just getting, overwhelmed.
Yeah.
Right. And needing to house these healthcare workers from, they have so many hospitals in New York City, as we know. And so we basically jumped in one day and we just started helping. We just where can we help? It was so, what was so interesting about it is that's not normally how we launch on any new project. We go through we have a project manager that comes in and we do discovery and we sit down, we have meetings and we work through their flow and kind of go through a 4-stage onboarding of all new clients. But in this scenario, there was no time.
No time for all that. No.
This was life and death truly for people. And so we just dove in. In one respect, I didn't love that part because I like to be proactive and you want to have that lead time, but we have to be agile and be able to truly just pivot and do whatever was needed, because this was, like you said at the beginning, this is a new world right now.
Yeah.
A very new world. And so
I think this is what you're explaining, and the example you're giving us definitely shows what small businesses can do. Mm-hmm. How agile and how, flexible we can be. And I think that's our real genius that makes us stand above some huge multinational companies. We can move faster, we can get there faster, and we have more creative solutions. Mm-hmm. So you did not share the big news, which is fine. I'll share it for you. The award that crewfacilities.com won was a $250 million disaster relief services contract to help the city of New York house all of their essential workers through the coronavirus. So first of all, thank you so much for being this person in the industry, creating an industry, and look at how you're going to be serving our country. You are giving back and helping all of our essential workers and our, critical healthcare workers, making sure that they get a good night's rest so they can continue the fight against COVID, which is unbelievable. So bravo to you. I mean, I just think this is just unbelievable.
Well, it wasn't me. It did, as we always say, it takes a village and it takes an entire team. And our team has worked literally, as the hardest I've ever seen anybody work. But again, look who we're servicing. We're servicing healthcare workers, and what we're doing is nothing compared to what they're doing.
Yes.
So that's what really keeps us going, and that's what keeps everybody just smiling no matter what, and no matter the hours that we're putting in the longer shifts, because we feel so good about what we're doing. This is about helping other people. And
when will the teams that you're going to be employing, when are they going to be on the ground? When does this project begin?
We actually jumped in the day we were called. We jumped in on March 21st. We've been on this project since March 21st, and we just jumped in, and the award just came to us on Friday. I believe it was this last Friday. It feels like weeks ago already, but we were awarded last Friday. We didn't know about what there was potential for contracts or anything like that. It was just
you just got mobilized and jumped in. So I think that this is an inspiring story. You thought you were going to have to furlough and lay people off. And you guys, basically, one of the things that I say to when small businesses call me or ask my opinion about how do you make it through a recession. This is my third recession, unfortunately, that I've been through as a business owner. But one of the things that I always say is get back to the basics. Mm-hmm. Don't try anything new. Don't get fancy. Don't get cute.
Right.
Go back to the core of your business. And that's exactly what you guys did.
Right. And in this instance, we're all back to the core. Look, we're all back in, I'm laughing because I'm sitting at the desk that I used, I don't know how many years ago when I started my first company. It's in my guest room and I'm sitting there. And it's all these things that just bring us back to, like you said, it's all about back to the basics.
It's back to the basics, showing up, being resilient, flexible and nimble, and basically showing up when there's a need.
We look at one thing, because you talked about how much, we give back as far as a very, very dear to our hearts, women owned and women led companies. And so we launched a foundation called Creating Women Leaders. And one of the things in our mission there, we talk about fear, the word fear. I believe that word is what holds all of us back from taking that step. I would say it's all about it just takes that first step. And so I think that when we talk about, during this time where, small women-owned businesses are saying, oh my gosh, what do I do now? The fear sometimes holds them back. And I think that's the biggest, right. And it cripples you. And so they always say, you know what? we have to, lead by faith and not by fear. And from the first day, this is going to stand out in my mind forever. So every day in our office, we have like a big board, and it's near like the kitchen area. And so every morning I'll always write some type of quote or motivation for the day. And this is going to hit me the next time I walk in the office. But the last day we were in the office when we saw this was coming, on the board, that was the first thing. That was what's still sitting on that board in that office. I feel like I'm never going to erase that dry erase board again. And it says, basically we lead with faith, not by fear. And it's sitting there on that board. And I keep thinking about it with goosebumps, because it's almost like it is frozen in time from 3 weeks ago, when I knew our entire team, everybody was scared. Everybody around the country has been scared. So I really feel like that's the first step, is every morning I sit and I read, through a lot of these different mantras and do a little meditation and just calm what's going on around us.
Yes.
And really try to distract from it, and just focus on, do not let fear freeze you and hold you back from taking a step. Because if you can distract and not focus on the fear, we're going to come through this like that. It's all about strength.
Do it. So that's really good. You have to definitely center yourself in the morning, remember what is actually true, right, versus what you've heard, because people always say, they said, or I heard. If you start a sentence with that, I don't want to hear it. Like, keep it. I don't want to hear what you heard or what they said. We don't even know who they are. Like, stop it. You know what I mean? So I've completely eliminated that choir out of my life. I don't want to hear it. So I've had to filter out a lot of, noise, and really center and be quiet, and focus on what I know is true today.
And just I say distract, just focus on feeling good no matter what it takes. Think about something that makes you happy and just focus on your goal. Where are you going? Where are you going to take your company? And don't let the outside noise and minutia block.
Don't let it seep in. Absolutely. Correct. So give me one, and this is something I'm adding for Corona times.
Okay.
I'm going to throw it on you, off cuff.
Okay.
One self-care tip for the business owner to get them through.
For me, I mentioned the meditation, but it's also because we're stuck inside, and I'm used to being on the road and traveling and moving and all that. And I'm sitting for a lot of hours, 7 days a week. I make sure that I literally block at least 30 minutes to 45 minutes of some type of exercise or movement. Because without that, I can't even think. I'm stressed. My husband goes, "You didn't do your exercise today. I can tell how cranky you are." That kind of thing. I think that and meditation are the two things. Without doing that, I don't think I could get through this stressful part. And believe me, I fall back every day, and I'll have a fear, and I'll forget, and I'm human like everybody else.
Absolutely.
That helps keep us grounded. We have to keep some type of time individually for ourselves, because now everybody's stuck home with their entire family and spouse 24/7. That's another, that adds another very big piece of what we could talk about today. That's very different. So, it can
be very stressful. So if you have to squirrel away and find a space in your closet to sit and
just take a walk if you can, depending on where you live. If it's somewhere you can walk and not, keep that distance or whatever, just make that time just to you've got to have some where it's just you and you're blocked out and you just get a release. So I think that's critical.
I mean, I'm going to echo what you said. We are absolutely going to get through this, and we're going to get through this together.
Mm-hmm, yeah.
I want to thank you for I count you as one of my, board people who's on my board that I can pick up the phone and call if I'm in a crisis or need help in business. I believe I can rely on you. So I want to thank you for that. Yeah. And that is something else that we're going to learn out of this, is that you build your network. And then once you've done that investment, you can rely on your network in hard times.
Yes. We're all sisters. We're all here to support each other, and doesn't matter when or what, we're all here for each other, because I feel the same way about you. So here we go. Here we are.
Absolutely. That's why we're here doing this podcast, because women CEOs rock. Baby,
right.
We're going to rock this whole crisis out. We're going to come out on the other side better, and we're going to be triumphant.
No doubt. No
So
doubt.
thank you so much, Andrea. I appreciate your time. Thank you for sharing your amazing. We made them wait for that story too. Like we gave a whole lot of background before we got to it. But
I start blushing every time I hear it. So
I know. Hopefully, it was everyone is like floored like I was when I got that press release, and it was
it's like there's a mistake with the zeros. Everybody's like, there's a mistake with those zeros.
Yeah, I was like,
I know.
Wait, 250
What?
million? I said, there must be a type. Unbelievable.
I know.
So to my audience, if you were looking for inspiration, if you were looking for some bright spots and some bright lights through this whole disaster that we're experiencing, and, basically to see that we're going to come out on the other side, we can absolutely look at Andrea and her business, crewfacilities.com, as an example of resilience in getting through the storm. So thank you so much, Andrea.
Thank you. And for anybody listening, any women-owned or women in general, please reach out if you ever need some support or ideas or coaching. Please feel free to reach out. I mean, on our website, I actually have a link that says Giving Back, and there's a contact through our Creating Women Leaders. So feel free to reach out to us, because that's something that's also dear to my heart, and that's something that keeps me going too. So I am here and willing to help anybody that just wants a little bit of, whether it's support, venting, ideas, whatever. So that's on our website, which is crewfacilities.com, which is right behind me. And it just says Giving Back on the toolbar. And you'll see that.
We're going to drop all that information in the show notes as well. So they're going to get to be able to look you up and look her up on LinkedIn and see everything that's going on that's wonderful at your company. So have a wonderful day, Andrea.
Thank you. You too. And I will see you soon. It's going to be very soon.
See each other, and we're going to hug each other and have a glass of wine.
That's right. Can't wait.
You can find all of our past episodes on iTunes, Spotify, and Google, or any of your other favorite podcast platforms. Be sure to subscribe to the show, rate, and leave us a review. Let us know how we're doing. Thank you for listening.